What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness for Life podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Lohr, and today I have with me Dr. Ashley Dwyer. She is the owner of Team BDN Coaching. She's been coaching, being a one-on-one health coach for 7 years now, and she is coming to us from Austin, Texas. And Ashley, I'm grateful for your time today, coming on the podcast.
Yeah, hi, of course. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Ashley, you're somebody who has taken a little bit of an untraditional approach to the health coaching space. There's not too many people who have the background that you do and the education that you do. Can you talk a little bit about your experience, your education, how you got into this space?
Yeah, definitely. For those who don't know, I'm a licensed pharmacist. So I went to school, did the whole wanted to be in health. That's what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to be a doctor because residency and time. And at the time, I'm old. So at the time that I went to school, pharmacy was still taking off, getting signing bonuses. Not by the time
Bummer.
I know. So I was a licensed pharmacist. I worked retail pharmacy for 6.5 years before I finally quit. But during that time and during pharmacy school, I started competing in NPC bodybuilding competitions and really loved fitness. I think some of us have a history of that. And I was like, oh, I love nutrition and fitness. And I was like, I'm not going to drop out of pharmacy school because it's a lot of money already. Let me try and use this education for my clients in the future, my patients in the future. And then I worked retail. And anyone who knows anything about pharmacy and retail is you get zero time, you get zero help. It is chaos. And so, it's different chaos, different places. I worked for Walgreens for 3 years, Publix for another 3 years. So shout out to the Southeast Publix people. And then I started to have my own health issues at 27. So graduated pharmacy school at 25, health issues at 27 because I never I kept up with the competitor lifestyle because I wanted to stay super tiny. And as a
Mm.
woman back then, I never got the proper coaching to do an improvement season, to eat correctly. I didn't know, even in pharmacy school, I'm not taught nutrition correctly, right? So I ended up burning out my thyroid. My cortisol was so high. It was 25, 26, not eating carbs, working out every day. And I'm sitting in the doctor's office at 27 with fresh diagnoses like perimenopausal hormones. I'm like, what did I do? Right. So I spent the next 5 years trying to kind of fix that with different doctors in Western medicine. And at the tail end of that, the last 2 years, I found functional medicine and functional coaching and realized it was my lifestyle. And I was like, whoa, you can manipulate so much with your lifestyle and preventative medicine. And then going back to retail pharmacy just gave me moral burnout. I wanted to help these people feel better and I didn't have time. And I felt like I was just handing out band-aids over a counter when I really wanted to just change lives. And that's why I got into healthcare. And so I started my company in 2018, did both for 2 years before I finally left pharmacy in 2020. And yeah, that's how we got here. And then, we started as just a macros and fitness coaching program. And now we've evolved into this functional health coaching program, which is just so fun. But I definitely use my pharmacy knowledge and knowledge of the body and medications and supplements to tailor our programs now. So I think I'm very lucky. My student loans will say different, but I'm very, very fortunate for my background and going through all the motions to be where we.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. For somebody who you are a functional medicine team, or you run a functional medicine team, what does, to the average person who doesn't know what that is, can you describe that? Because that's not what I am. I'm a fitness and nutrition coach. I don't work as much on that side of things. Can you talk about the differences for
Yeah.
somebody listening?
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with fitness and nutrition coaching. I love that. It's just I kind of am the puzzle nerd. I like complex cases. And so the really difficult clients, I'm like, let me see if I can fix this, solve this. So functional, and I have to put a disclaimer out there. It's become a word, it's
Yeah.
become a buzzword, and I hate it so much because I feel like there are actual definitions for functional, holistic, root cause, all of that. And then you get grifters who use these and scam you. And now it's just become awful. So, what I interpret it as is just getting to the deeper meaning of what's going on with the client using all aspects, whether it's physical, emotional, environmental, taking into account their whole body, their whole lives to try and figure out what the issue is. So if I see a client with thyroid issues and Hashimoto's, I'm not just thinking like, okay, we give them thyroid medicine and like that's it. I'm thinking stress, gut health. What's their cortisol doing? What is the rest of their body doing? What's their environment look like? How is this contributing to their illness? What can we fix in this? That is what we do. And we do have access to additional testing like GI maps, Dutch tests, more what you would find in the functional space.
Yeah. So, given it, if you could, elaborating a little bit further on that, like, can you give an example of like, hey, this is an environmental factor that we see that we often, that is something we can actually help somebody change in their life?
I think the biggest one, this might not be a great example, I'll give another one, but the biggest one is stress and like how people perceive stress, right? Like that's a huge one for women. And we predominantly work with women only. So we see that effect on their hormones tenfold all over the place because you get women who are working full-time jobs, then coming home and doing kids and have a spouse and then sports and then, like all of that. And you're go, go, go. And I'm like, girlfriend, where is me time? Do you have any time for yourself? And then you're not working out, you're not really eating the best foods. So that type of schedule and environment is really rough on the nervous system. And if we're not nourishing our body in the right way, helping it, that's one thing. Another thing that an environment can put into is like, well, here's a plastic coffee container. We got a BPA and all the endocrine disrupting chemicals that we see in like products and cleaners and candles. Oh my God, women love candles. And I have to like tell them we got to get rid of your Bath and Body Works candles. I'm sorry. But just kind of what we're exposing our body to as well makes a big difference sometimes, depending on what we're working on.
I really appreciate that you're like, when you're saying this, you're like, hey, it's not, we're doing this for every person. Like, we're not just throwing out, and like, clearly you're drinking it yourself, but that's because for you, like, you have a lot of those factors controlled for, like, you have stopgaps in place. That's not, you're, to my understanding, not actively going through something where you're coaching yourself through an issue. So like, you're not just going to say, hey, blanket statement, here's the things that we're going to get rid of.
Absolutely not. And I think that people who like to project like extremes and absolutes online, like that is not coaching. That is not like it's going to be so nuanced. There's nuance to everything. There needs individualization to everything. If we're just applying the same protocol to every client, then is it really individualized?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really helpful for people to hear that, like, all right, you don't have to get rid of, you don't have to bring glassware everywhere you go. You don't have to, yeah, make those switches. That would
Listen,
be,
no, I'm like a bull in a china shop. I could not carry around glass water bottles like mess. I would break everything.
yeah, I'll rat on my wife a little bit here. She is definitely a little bit clumsier in nature. And, it's like one of those things where she'll wake up, hey, where did you get all those bruises? Like, people are going to think I'm hitting you or something. It's like, no, you just bumped into the bed frame 3 times last night. So, yeah, no, I get it. Talking about, there's no nuance online. There's not, those aren't the flashy things that we see. We came into this, wanted to talk about, hey, what are some of the things that are marketed that are often wrong or misleading in some way? What are some of the primary problems you and your team tend to have to correct right away or are seeing a lot right now? Can you start us with one of those?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot, and it's dependent across the age gap too. Like, we're seeing a lot of women who are, married, perimenopause and menopause is like the flashy topic now. Also, it's getting a lot of attention online, which I love because it wasn't before. But we're getting a lot of people who are saying, like, across the board, like, calorie deficits don't work for
Mm,
perimenopause. Menopause. You need XYZ supplementation. You need weighted vest walking. You need like all of these little extremes and intricacies that aren't needed and are not true. And then you find other accounts that are just parroting these things or women who just believe that they're broken and
mm,
you're not. Like menopause does not mean you're broken. It just means we have to go about things in a different way. But calorie deficits absolutely work. I think what I see a lot of is women are preyed upon because of their emotions
mm,
and women when they're stuck, we will do anything to feel better, right? Like we'll invest in something, we'll buy something. We just want to feel better. And unfortunately, these like grifting extreme statements catch that attention emotionally. And then they're like, I have to do this. This is my answer. And it's not. It is just sexy and flashy. And Yeah,
Yeah.
I see it all over.
When it comes to especially that first one, like the calorie deficits do not work. Why can you talk a little bit about like what is the belief behind that and why it's so attractive to get like caught up in that?
Oh man. Okay. So this is definitely going to be like my opinion on things too, which I think is also logically correct. But there's, like I said, there's a lot of stuff online. So I think it's so attractive right now because you have women who are like, I'm eating in a calorie deficit and I'm not seeing results. So then when they hear like calorie deficits don't work for this population or this disease state, they're like, I feel validated.
Mm,
I feel like I'm not doing anything wrong. This is great. And then, that same person who's touting calorie deficits don't work, they're saying like CECO is not a thing for this, like calories in versus calories out doesn't work for this population because of insulin, because of cortisol, because of hormones, and because of what's going on in your body. So they're like, okay, yeah, it's definitely my hormones that are keeping me from losing weight. And then they feel, it's just that feeling of like belonging and validation that they seek. So now there's like, okay, so what is my answer? And then generally their answer is like, a supplement, a GLP-1, something like that. When as someone who works with women across their age span, so like from 25 to 60 and above, who works with predominantly hormone cases,
mhm,
it's not the hormones and it's not that CECO doesn't work for you, that calorie deficits don't work. It's just you're not in a calorie deficit. Like how many
mm,
times do you see that, right? If they're not tracking, they are terrible at recounting what they had to eat that day. They overestimate their exercise and underestimate their calorie intake when they are self-reporting, right? And then you get into people who are tracking, and then we find so many tracking errors because they're just kind of picking it up themselves. And it is a skill that needs to be developed. It's not easy by any means, which is why I think it's really helpful to work with a coach, but then you put them into a calorie deficit and they're like, "Oh, I am seeing results," right? Or they're in a deficit Monday through Thursday and then
mm,
just go like balls to the wall Friday through Sunday and they're no longer in a deficit. It is true. I don't want to like invalidate anybody. It is true that hormones do have an impact on
mhm.
calories in, calories out, but that is just it. It influences calories in, it influences calories out, which still makes CECO applicable. You just have to figure out how to rebalance that so we shut off the cravings and the intake is usually more in these situations. So we back that off, and output is generally lower because of fatigue, because of poor sleep. So we also try and rectify those situations to again make CECO work. So at the end of the day, CECO is still very much applicable. Just, you know, need to figure out what's we need to put more effort towards the things that are actually going to change it.
Yeah. For you, when you're working with your clients and your patients, do you find that a lot of people are maybe not eating enough of the right types of foods? Like it's more of like, hey, they're eating smaller volumes and then like these habits kind of creep into their life of like larger snacking or distracted eating or things that they wouldn't even think of. What does that look like for you?
Is this before they start working with us or during?
Let's say both.
Okay. So before, the most common thing I see for women is like not eating full meals. We're
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
We're market, right? And so if we want to talk about insulin and blood sugar there, like, yeah, definitely snacking and grazing all day, terrible for blood sugar regulation. Let's not do that, right? So we're feeling unsatisfied because we're not actually eating full meals. And then we get to the end of the day and we're like, I'm ravenous. I have a sweet tooth. Like, give me it all. And I'm like, just got to eat like breakfast and lunch and have some carbs and like we'll be good. Let's have some fiber and protein. And then when they're working with us, we are definitely setting them up on no, we're eating breakfast. Like I'm not a fan of fasting. I'm just not in premenopausal women. I just wake up, eat a protein heavy breakfast. This will be great for blood sugar regulation and for getting the day started. A solid lunch, a solid dinner, and then if we need to add 2 snacks in, like mid-morning, mid-afternoon, awesome. Try and focus on a protein-heavy snack or like a fruit, something with fiber, but we're trying to set them up in a how to build satisfying meals with, like, healthy fats, all of the food groups, color, diversity, and then depending on their specific issue, if it's PCOS, Hashimoto's, we'll make changes on their food and what we recommend or a gut protocol. But for the most part, it's just trying to get them into a cadence of like think of protein first, then think of fiber, think of color. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think I would agree with you on the fasting piece. I think especially my clientele tends to shift a little bit older. And what I notice is there's a too much of a tendency to want to be small, to want to like things like you talked about the mistakes you made personally of staying that small, staying that skinny is like, okay, there's a lack of muscle here, there's a lack of energy here, and that can really mess with you over time.
For sure. If you're also working with the older population, muscle is so important and they're losing it so quickly because of menopause and all of that. So, you know, at that point it becomes a detriment to stay super skinny.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that is my platform, very similar to like a Robert Linkle TOA of, hey, some of the biggest concerns I see are sarcopenia and osteopenia, osteoporosis. And that's, how do we get out of that? Well, we got to eat right. We have to eat enough protein, enough, that's where collagen may even become a factor there a little bit, not using it to the degree that it's marketed, um, but somewhat. And then getting all of the vitamins and minerals we actually need for bone health, which is quite a few, and they interact well.
Do you work with anyone who's on a GLP-1?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So even more in that patient population too,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of like now you're double working against like a medication that can really cause this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where it gets a little challenging. And I've had a handful of clients on GLP-1s in that demographic of getting into their 60s, getting into their 70s, and experiencing substantial muscle loss towards the end of their GLP-1 use, and it's really frustrating. Luckily, I feel like these people have found me at the right time, where I've been able to intervene at a good time before things got bad, because you can definitely see the trajectory of that potential happening.
Well, that's great. I'm glad they like reached out at the proper time.
Yeah, yeah, because that's not the case for everybody, right? Like there are some serious issues that can arise as a result of extended GLP-1 use, not for medical purposes. If I had to clarify that, right?
I mean, that is also the flashy marketing we're seeing too is vanity weight loss. I've made several stitches and videos about accounts that are just marketing to women for
Mm,
vanity. Like, this is a dangerous medication. What are we doing telling women to take it for just 10 pounds? What are we doing?
yeah, yeah. It's attractive. It's the. I mean, I think it's the definition for the people who are being marketed to for vanity metrics, and maybe that 10, 5, 10, 15 pound weight loss. Like those are not necessarily people who need it, but they're people who would they benefit from it for a really short period of time, maybe. But it is kind of you're exactly right, taking advantage of that population and that fear of like something's broken. I can't do it on my own, like that sort of thinking, for sure.
Yeah. Calorie deficits don't work for me. And then the GLP-1 makes you eat 900 calories a day. And, voila, here we are.
Right.
We're losing weight.
So it does. I think that's the point behind it is it does come back to that central component of like, no, calories in, calories out does work. It's just how you go about getting there that is the difference for some people. So what do you, when it comes to kind of continuing along the weight loss, this is kind of the brand new thing with GLP-1s, are not necessarily brand new, but it's being more popularized, right? We talked a little bit beforehand about shiny object syndrome and why that can be so dangerous. Can you talk a little bit about one, what that is to people who don't know, and then two, when we apply it to this field, why is that so frustrating and dangerous?
Yeah. So shiny object syndrome is exactly what it sounds like. Like you see something new and exciting and awesome, and you're like, I have to try that. I have to, like, I want that. Even when it comes to like products, like the new iPhone coming out, ooh, shiny new phone. I got to have it. Right. So in our industry, it is particularly harmful and also frustrating because you never actually give one of the things that you're doing enough time to. Some people, most women give 2 to 4 weeks time and they're like, this didn't work for me. And I'm like, give it more time. You lost 2 pounds in 2 weeks and this isn't working for you? Like, we also need to talk about like the reality of how much weight loss is actually healthy versus like 7 pounds in 1 week. No, that's not good. I was just speaking to someone who did a water fast for 72 hours and she's like, I lost 6 pounds, but then, put on 4. And I was like, yeah, it's water weight. Like this isn't healthy. Like I don't recommend this, but that's shiny object is like 72-hour water fast, autophagy and retrain your digestive system and lose all this weight, but they don't tell you like you're losing water weight, not actual body fat, and you're probably losing some muscle mass, right? So shiny object syndrome is just like imagine you're on a diet and you're one of Jackson's clients, right? And you're doing your nutrition and your fitness, and then you come across a supplement and you're like, ooh, do I need this? Like, I think this is what I need. And then you want to try that, you want to add a fat burner, and then you're like, no, Jackson talked you down, no. And then you see like a post about weighted vests and how this will help you burn fat quicker. So then you come to him again and you're like, do I need a weighted vest? Is this what I need? No, no, you don't need a weighted vest. GLP-1s, like, I think I'm stuck. Like, is this what I need? So you're just constantly looking for or seeing something that seems more attractive and may help you sooner and get results quicker. But all it is really a trap. It's a trap. So I was definitely someone who had shiny object syndrome when I was younger. I was like, ooh, new fat burner, new diet, new like keto, new all of this. And then I was like, this keeps me stuck, frustrated, starving, not seeing results. And then you spend 2 years of your life like not getting anywhere. It's really expensive, really time consuming, and ultimately like not what we need to be doing. Understand patience with programming and with protocols can be hard because we just want those results. But I think you probably tell your clients this too. Like, the weight you put on or the situation that you have didn't come on in 12 to 24 weeks, right? So we can't expect to lose it in 12 to 24 weeks.
Right.
Let's breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, for a couple of reasons, like I always try and extend my client's timeline of like, hey, let's think about what's reasonable. You know, not to slow their progress at all, but just to hedge expectations so that they know like, hey, here's what's a healthy way to come to this problem, this issue that you're having. I also kind of have this one step removed rule. And I've talked about it a couple of times on this podcast of like, if you have a problem that took you decades to develop, it will probably take you years to get fully free of it. If you have a problem that took years to develop, we're looking at probably months, and just taking that one step removed. And that's not foolproof. That's not 100% accurate. And I've said that before, but it's a good kind of general rule of thumb of like, we're not looking at a years long problem and it's going to be days to fix it. Like it's not a simple, straightforward kind of rule. And I may have picked that up from somebody else. I don't know. So I'm not going to claim credit for that.
You know what it reminds me of? There's like a saying that like however long you dated someone, it'll take you like half as long to get over the relationship. And like that's what it makes me think of is like if it took you 10 years, it'll take you 5 to get out of it. Now that's not true either. It's not true for the relationship, but it reminds me of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think, and going back to the shiny object syndrome, like I think this is exactly one of the reasons that when we see in research, like you're looking at different training methods, looking at different supplements, different nutritional protocols, the minimum we look at, like absolute bare minimum. This is like if you're an undergrad doing you're a freshman or sophomore doing research, minimum is 6 weeks to do a study. And that's like everything's controlled, everything's like there's 100, you have to have compliance, you have to maintain enough of the subjects over that period of time at a high enough compliance threshold to actually see results. So I think that's why when we have shiny object syndrome, it gets people stuck, is because there's just not enough time.
There's not enough time. My brain now is like, oh, Jackson, let's not even talk about studies and like what is going on online either. That is also another like part of our little community of like data and cherry picking and like do your own research. Interesting. Cause even though I carry, like, as you started this podcast, and thank you so much for like the kind words, but like of my background going into coaching, I almost feel like having the doctor in front of my name is work. for me now. Like people don't trust medical professionals. I mean, because of 2020, it kind of like was not great for medicine. I understand, but it's almost becoming, yeah, I don't know. It's not a good time right now online.
Well, I think that just highlights the necessity of people like yourself. You and I both know Dr. Joe Zundell, who talks about cancer research and is a cancer researcher, I should mention, and whose life has been personally impacted by cancer. Like that's his field of study and his pursuit, what he talks about. But like there's a necessity for those of us, those of you with the additional education and licensure background behind you too, that it becomes more important for you to speak up and drown out the noise.
Listen, I don't think any of us plan on stopping, but
Yeah,
for your clients who are listening, I totally understand. Like if I wasn't in the field, I get where it becomes so confusing because they'll
absolutely.
hear something from someone and then like, oh, I have this study, but the common layperson doesn't know how to interpret a study, right? So they hear that this is what's happening, but there's just so much mixed messaging that it there's so much confusion. So, like, they might not know what differentiates what why did I say that so weird? Differentiates what I say versus someone else, even though that person is interpreting the study wrong. They don't know that. This makes me wanna, like, create some type of, like, statistics course. Like, here's how you read a scientific study.
Yeah. That might honestly, with the realm of information becoming more and more misleading, that might almost be a good like free resource to put online of like, hey, here's the basics of interpreting data and the kind of that you would do in a research lab as you're writing a meta-analysis. Like, here's what it would look like, and here's different terms that are maybe worthwhile pursuing.
Okay, well, I'm writing it down in my notes, so it's just the thing.
Awesome. I love it. Cool. What are, we talked a little bit about shiny object syndrome, calories in, calories out versus hormones. Are there any other like major frustrations you see with, clients coming in, just friends and family complaining of certain things that are frustrating they're seeing in marketing or that's wrong with, that they're issues that they're facing?
So, a lot of the women that I work with and a lot of the consult calls that I have seen or had recently, a lot of them are just hitting their 40s and they're like, life is not feeling the same. Like, we're kicking up more of the perimenopause symptoms. We're kicking up more of like histamine issues, PMS, PMDD. So, they're really starting to feel this. And it is a struggle, and I'm not saying I'm not gonna go through that, I'm sure I am, but what I am seeing is just women who are now trying to tackle those issues and almost start their health and fitness journey at this moment with these issues, and I just wish like the best time to get ahead of something or to help something is to get ahead of it, right? So start in your 30s so that perimenopause is easier in your 40s and menopause is easier when you go through it. Like, you'll have an easier time postpartum if you start prenatal, right? So it's just I want people to stop waiting even though it's not happening to you now, like start instilling these habits now. And it makes me feel just bad listening to these stories because nobody, in Western medicine, they go to their doctor and their doctor says everything's normal. And then they send me their labs and I'm like, this is not
Mm,
this is not anywhere near what you should be feeling. Like ferritin's at a 15. Are you alive? Like, do you feel okay? Like, I'm sure you're sleeping all day.
yeah.
So so there's just things that aren't addressed. And then there's just so much frustration by the time they get to me, which is really common because I like to say we're like the last line, right? Like you've tried all the other things. Now it's time to like come to us. So I'm used to this frustration. It just still like sits heavy with me every time. And then I have to sort out the marketing gimmicks with them and the supplement regime with them. And like, oh, I was told I need all these. I'm like, no, you don't. Actually, three of these products have the same ingredient in it. You're actually like overdosing yourself with this. So the supplements I think are the newest thing, honestly. It's like, what
Mm,
can I take to solve this issue without changing my lifestyle?
which is a little frustrating because I think obviously people want to minimize the changes they're making, like, because we get comfortable in our lives, right? That's for the most part. Some people come and I'm sure you've had plenty of clients like this where they come and they've had that rock bottom moment or they're at it right now and they're like, I need a ground up restructure. Those clients are, in my opinion, the easy ones. It's like, all right, you're there. I don't have to motivate you to get moving because you've already had that deep within your soul.
They're very coachable. They'll
Yeah.
listen to you. They're like ready. And
Yeah.
I think we do like at a certain point, all of us need to get fed up with our own BS before we're like ready to dive in.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I forgot where I was going with that. Man.
Just the clients who come in who don't want to change a lot about their lifestyle.
Yeah. I think, we being very holistic, like, and having an approach that addresses many facets of someone's life. Like, if they're coming to you, even if they're coming to me, like, that's something that I often see is like, oh, there's a hesitance to change lifestyle, but the true results do come from buying into that over time and being willing to accept that, like, hey, maybe the lifestyle I'm living is not the one that's going to give me what I want.
It's kind of like what have I been preaching these days? There's a couple of things. Like one, nobody is getting past the first law of thermodynamics, right?
Right.
Like nobody's
Yeah.
getting past ego. Nobody is getting past doing the work. Like
Mm.
whether you're on GLP-1 or not, you still got to change your lifestyle, eat well, exercise, or you're going to lose muscle mass. You're going to gain all the weight back, right? Even if you're on a supplementation, you know the saying like you can't outwork a crappy diet, you can't out supplement a crappy lifestyle.
Mm.
Like I think the other thing that I am personally dealing with as a pharmacist, maybe I notice it more, is you have all these people who are like, I don't want to be on drugs. They're harmful, big pharma, big all of this. But then they're like open arms ready to take whatever unregulated supplement might be on the market because it's natural. And why that is scary for me, and like I made a threads post about this last week of like, I didn't leave my job of handing out band aids to people to now hand out supplements to people.
Saw
Like,
that.
yeah, like big pharma is being taken over by big wellness, but people are accepting big wellness because it's quote unquote natural. And so it must be better. But what I think, again, what you're not realizing is none of the supplements are regulated. They're not FDA approved, and people have a distrust in the FDA now. I get it. But drugs go through rigorous testing to make sure they're okay for people to take. And supplements do not. Supplements aren't even tested to make sure the ingredient that you're getting is in the product or the dose that it says is on it is in the product. The manufacturing practices could be out of someone's garage and you would have no idea, right? Like maybe not the giant companies, but again, they're so unregulated that you are putting these things together. And there's not a database like what pharmacists have of drug interactions with each other. There's not a database for supplement interactions that the layperson has access to. So you have no idea if you're taking something that's conflicting with something else or with your medications, and you're just putting this all in your body that is potentially taxing your liver even more. But like, sure, let's add a milk thistle to take care of that. It's making the situation way worse. And if we back off of some of that supplementation, like I've even had clients come in to work with me who've come from a naturopathic doctor or a functional doctor and they're on 25 supplements. And I'm like,
Ooh.
what are we doing here? Like, I almost need a clean slate at this point to see what's working and what's not? And thankfully, some of these clients are open to like discontinuing things. And so we can start fresh. But it is just wild
Yeah.
with some.
Yeah. The Wild West with supplements, for whatever reason, it has remained that way for quite some time. I was lucky enough to the director of my program that I attended when I was in athletic training school, he was a global authority on supplements, particularly for sports nutrition. So that hearing from him regularly and seeing him keynote a couple of different times was like, yeah, okay. I got that nailed into my head early. I think we're at the point now where like most protein powders, most creatine is pretty okay. Like you're probably not going to go wrong with getting one or two of those. If you go too far beyond that, that's where you can get some really wacky stuff.
Even the creatine gummies, have you seen like some of the people testing those? They don't contain the amount of creatine they say they do. So like
So the
stick with
gummies are okay. Interesting. All right, I hadn't seen any of that yet. Okay, well that's good to know because we were about to go get us some for my wife.
some of them have been tested and came out like okay. So there are brands that are good, but the majority of them don't contain the amount of creatine they say. And that's probably all supplements, to be honest, that are
Yeah.
not third party tested.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things I think for people listening at home, like there are some seals that I always look for, like NSP or other third party testing. You should see something that says on your supplement, hey, this has been third party tested, and they should have a seal that says so. If they don't, be concerned and maybe find a different brand. Personally, I go with Thorne. That's not a outright endorsement of them, but they've been very good to me and my clients in the past. There's several brands out there.
Yeah. I like Thorn. I like Legion for like
Yeah.
protein, creatine, things like that. I like Pure Encapsulations has a lot of great formulations, but I think they're bought out by Nestle now. So I need to do some research. We're still good under those.
Yeah.
That situation. Yeah. So just like if you're listening to this, supplements are not bad, but you only should take what you actually need. And if I was to endorse any supplements for the general population, I would say most people need magnesium
Yeah.
in some form or
Yeah.
fashion. Avoid citrate unless we want some accidents, just saying. Uh, that one will really get the bowels going. I think most people could really benefit from a vitamin D supplement. Like, even if you're sitting out in the sun, most people are deficient in vitamin D. But beyond that, I would not recommend, or creatine. Like, I like creatine for everyone unless you have an active kidney issue. But beyond that, I don't like even electrolytes. Like, it needs to be person specific. Everything else needs to be person specific.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot. I wanted to bring it back to real quick. Um, what you said about people in their 40s, like just kind of starting out their 40s and 50s, starting out their health journey there, and like running into menopause, perimenopause, that sort of thing. What I see on my end, like I said, because I do tend to work with older women and older folks as well, is in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like it's twofold. One, if you've not started already and you've not started focusing on maybe shifting that focus from being skinny and, feeling like looking good, shifting that mentality to, hey, let's feel good in our body, and then do some of the inner work, the mental work, to have some better self-image. But then also let's build muscle so that we have that for our 70s, our 80s, our 90s and beyond. Because what I see, I work with a lot of people who are high fall risk clients, high fall risk patients, and being in that scenario without a lot of existing muscle is one of the scariest things for people, is they never know when they're going down. Uh, and it can be a really scary existence. The flip side of that is you're never too late to start. I have clients who have started in their 80s, post stroke, post fall, who have made improvements and have built strength, built muscle. Those improvements aren't going to be the same as a 20-year-old is going to make. They're not going to be these, massive leaps and bounds right away. But it doesn't mean I do want to restore the feeling of hope for those people. Like, hey, if you've neglected that, or if you've fallen into whatever patterns you've fallen into out of necessity, and just out of not knowing better, hey, that's not on you, but it is certainly, you're certainly at a point where you can start, you can improve, and it's not a hopeless position.
Absolutely. I think that's great that you help that population. I mean, it is my grandmother's 84
Mm.
and just had a terrible, like, muscular sickness. We can chat about it, but she is very under muscled and she lost a lot of weight getting sick, and she had no defenses. She had nothing. So at that point, like I said, it's a detriment at that point. It's your balance, it's like your independence. If you don't have any of that as you age, it's not even about, like, being thin anymore. It's about, like, being able, right? Like, capable.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where my role as a coach is to step in and remind people of how capable the human body is and how
Mhm.
powerful the mind is. And I've put videos together on this as well, of like, hey, the power of belief in yourself is tremendous. Like, if you can shift from a belief of, hey, this is impossible, I'm never going to achieve it, to I can take the next step, really just the next step. And, that's and continue with that mindset. You can go quite a ways, and your body will carry you, and your mind will drive you on.
That's
So, yeah.
yeah. Your clients are lucky to have you.
Well, I appreciate it. I feel like we're getting close to time. I want to make sure that if you have any final thoughts, anything that we didn't address that you'd like to real quickly, anything you have wrapping up thoughts.
Yeah, I think we covered like a lot of ground, but would just say, as a final wrap up to people who are on social media and just seeing a bunch of stuff, like, if you see the shiny and flashy and you catch yourself being like, "Ooh, this is new. Is this my solution?" Like it's probably not, unless it is someone who is spouting calorie deficits or how to do like the boring basic work and make it work for your lifestyle. I would ignore all other things. Like I would just practice a level of self discernment there and then unfollow the rest. You're going to hear a lot of women who say, like, this worked for me. And you are not that woman. So try and stick for something individual to you. And I think you'll have much greater success once you focus on that shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I want to say one thing about the "this worked for me" mentality, because I think it's important that people recognize you are not that person, but you also don't have that person's life and lifestyle. So the single mom of 3 is going to be very different from the person who, is an empty nester and or never had kids and has all the time in the world. Like that's a very different environment and approach. And so, yeah, keep in mind that you don't have the same life as the people that you see. And it's often can be very intentionally misguiding.
Yeah. Whoever came up with the statement, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, because that is not accurate at all.
I hate it. It's so bad. It's so bad. As
It's,
a father of a toddler and somebody with 2 jobs, hate it. Can't stand
yeah,
it.
it's not great. Maybe everyone has the same 24 hours, but not everyone has the same availability,
Right.
So,
Yeah. 100%. Cool.
and it,
Ashley, yes. Ashley, if people are looking to hear more from you, get in touch with your team, where can they find you?
yeah, the best place is honestly Instagram. My handle is at dr.dwyer, so dr.dwyer. I'm very active on Instagram in my DM. Shoot me a message, really responsive. And yeah, let me know what you guys think.
Sweet. Awesome. For those of you guys listening, really appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope you're able to take something away right away. If you did, if you enjoyed this conversation, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please, if you're listening on Spotify, please subscribe and leave a review, leave a 5-star review for us. Super helpful for me, super helpful for getting this kinds of information into more people's hands, hopefully changing some lives. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.